This is New Media TV in London. Live stream with confidence. Content is king.
Yes, hi. Good afternoon to you all, my avid viewers, followers, and subscribers on Facebook and YouTube. Yes, I welcome you to another great video from our channel, No Media TV in London. Today's date is Tuesday, the 28th day of the 4th month of April 2026. The time in London is 14:27 minutes past 2 o'clock London time. In today's video podcast, we want to talk about how rogue political vultures killed Nigeria. And in particular, I will refer you to the former Attorney General of the Federation, AGF Abubakar Malami, and the hopelessness of northern Nigeria 66 years after independence from the United Kingdom. Let's get started. See, first, I'm not too sure whether many of you must have seen the video clip, but there was a total shutdown in Kebbi State, northern Nigeria, as a mammoth crowd welcomes Abubakar Malami after 123 days of detention by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, and the Department of State Security, DSS, in Abuja, Nigeria. But looking back at the recent development, you will notice that in a recent interview with Seun Okinbaloye on the mic on podcast, former Senator Sheusani singled out specific political actors, gladiators, and periods when discussing the destruction of Nigeria's economy and infrastructure That was with Sheun Okinbaloye on the Mic on podcast. Now, in that beautiful and engaging, delightful discussion, Senator Shehu Sani stated that those who destroyed Nigeria from 1999 to 2015 were politicians from the PDP era. That is the 1999 to 2023 political class. So 1999 to 2015, a handful of them were from the PDP era. And from 2015 to 2023, you will equally find a handful of them in the APC era. Now, both of this political class from 1999 to 2015 and from 2015 to 2023 are now mostly in the African Democratic Congress, ADC. In other words, the disgruntled criminals who destroyed Nigeria, they are all right inside the ADC, African Democratic Congress, which Sani described as the authors and architects of Nigeria's current crisis. 2015 to 2023, let us look at that particular year, those particular years in focus. So the former senator, actor, playwright and human rights activist Sani argued that the Buhari administration destroyed the Nigerian economy. Yes, he did. He destroyed the economy both institutionally and fundamentally, and that the current challenges are inherited from those 8 mad, volatile years of Muhammadu Buhari. So this affluent northern politician blamed all former northern leaders for the region's underdevelopment since independence in 1960, arguing that the North has held leadership positions for decades, but they prioritized personal interest and greed of their region over development. Sani has generally argued that the current economic hardship in the country is the result of decades of misgovernance, military dictatorship, poor leadership, and corruption across both major parties in the country, rather than just the last 3.5 years of the current President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration that came into being in 2023. He further emphasized that there is no credible opposition because many opposition members were part of the previous administrations that bled the country dry, leading to the current economic crisis. But responding to allegations by some northerners and northern politicians that the North is being marginalized by President Bola Tinubu through politics of ethnicity and religion, Shehu Sani said the North benefited most under Buhari. The North were not marginalized. He said, and he said it emphatically. The North during Muhammadu Buhari has the most states and local governments, and as a result, because they were in power, they receive more federal allocations than any other regions in the country. And on political appointments, the late former President Muhammadu Buhari, who passed away, who died in 2017 and was subsequently replaced with a masked silicon latex president, was far more worse than Tinubu in nepotism, ethnicity, and religion, as most of those appointed to political positions under a dodgy Muhammadu Buhari that was being controlled by the cabal were northerners. Now, under Muhammadu Buhari that was being controlled by the cabals in the north, we must not forget that we've got the Chief of Army Staff, northerner, the Chief of Air Staff, northerner, the Chief of Defense Staff, northerner, DSS Controller, northerner, Immigration Controller, northerner, Prisons Controller, northerner, the Controller General of Customs and Excise, northerner, and finally the Inspector General of Police. All these guys were northerners. North, during the period the North held on to power, were not marginalized. However, if we come to think about it holistically, if you are a political leader who has sworn an oath of allegiance to be just and fair, you should be fair to all parts of Nigeria. I believe so, but it is not so. But the issue the northerners are now raising under the current administration is that they are marginalized. Really? Marginalized? The North must not forget that when one of their sons, Muhammadu Buhari, was president of Nigeria, fake or no fake, we've got northerners controlling key positions in the country. So, but when discussing political projects and legacy, it is not true that the South is currently benefiting more than the North, because under Muhammadu Buhari, real or fake, the Northwest and the Southwest, let us be realistic with ourselves, benefited more from projects and political appointments. Because Tinubu promised them that he is an extension of Muhammadu Buhari, so it's a replica. So under Tinubu's administration, the Northwest and the Southwest have also benefited more from projects and political appointments. Let's be realistic with ourselves and be honest. But if any region in Nigeria should talk about marginalization in the country, I think, in all fairness, it should be the southeastern part of Nigeria, which has been systematically marginalized and brutalized under Muhammadu Buhari, real or fake, to date. But since President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's accession to power in 2023, Northern Nigeria has claimed that appointments are being Yorubanized. Let me ask you, is that fair to PBAT? Definitely, the answer is no. I leave you to begin to think about it. But let me take you through the topic. Yorubanization of appointments followed Hausanisation and Fulanisation of political appointments. Did you get that? Yorubanization of appointments followed from Hausanisation and Fulanization of political appointments in Nigeria. Hausanisation and Fulanization were terrible, and Yorubanization is as equally as bad as Hausanisation and Fulanization. We cannot justify Hausanisation, Fulanization, or Northernization. Northerners kept quiet. They kept quiet when it was happening during their turn, when Muhammadu Buhari, real or fake, was in power. They kept quiet when it was happening during the Buhari era, only to now speak from 2023 to 2026 that Yorubanization agenda is unfolding in the nasty piece of a contraption called Nigeria. Make no mistakes, tribal and ethnic politics are a trend in contemporary African political philosophy. It is not the same with the West. When people find themselves in positions of authority or power in Africa, anywhere in Africa, they try to fill those roles and positions with people from their own ethnic backgrounds, even at the highest levels, including the presidency. It is so in Kenya. It is so in Uganda. It is so in Sierra Leone. It is so in Gambia. It is so in Senegal. It is so everywhere in Zimbabwe, all over Africa. Let me buttress this argument so that you can learn from it. There was a time, I recall, when we had a particular lady in Nigeria heading a federal government parastatal. Rather than spread appointments round the country, this same woman employed people and ensured that most of those people that were employed in her department were from her own tribe. This woman in question was an Igbo woman from the southeastern part of Nigeria. So, as Africans, we are faced with this terrible, ridiculous situation. The same thing is with a Hausa man who perhaps heads a commission. The Hausa man will make sure that Hausa people in his department will populate the same department that he's the head of. Equally, the same applies to Yoruba. So what is happening today, as you see it, is not different from what happened yesteryears. But the point is that we should have built a nation where people are appointed to public offices on merit and equity, and where justice is extended to all ethnic groups, because that is exactly what makes us to be a country. However, if I may take you back memory lane, perhaps this was exactly what my late father, Engineer Zacchaeus Andrew Bello ZAB, saw in 1980 after retiring as head of department civil engineering and building, Yaba College of Technology, when he told me in 1980 Nigeria will subsequently collapse because as at 1980 Shagari was the president of the country. And my late father, like I've said countless of times to you, that he started fighting from 1970 when Gowon was the military head of state, all through to Murtala Mohammed, Obasanjo, and Shehu Shagari. So as at 1980, my late father made me realize that Nigeria will subsequently collapse because the way they were running the country at the time is not the way a country should be run. If one tribe, ethnicity or region dominates, what does that do to the country? It breeds a loss of confidence in the nation, and it sows the seeds of discords and crisis. You cannot force people to be patriotic in a society where their ethnicity and religious identity are stigmatized and a source of discrimination against them. It's against God and it is against humanity. That is exactly what Nigeria has been working against, and that is why many of the black African nations can never be successful. Okay, people are now talking that Nigerians, people like Rotimi Amechi and those association of disgruntled criminals in the ADC, Atiku Abubakar, David Mark, Rauf Aregbesola, and those despotic politicians now claim that Nigerians are far more poor and worse under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Poverty under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Let's rewind. And I want to take you again back through memory lane. Poverty under Buhari, real or fake or dodgy latex silicone, Muhammadu Buhari, was worse than under Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. I thought I had seen it all under Jonathan. So if you talk about Buhari, remember that a credible international report found out that over 160 million Nigerians under Muhammadu Buhari were living below the poverty line. So in other words, those 160 million Nigerians were in abject poverty. The removal of the petroleum subsidy obviously has worsened the country's poverty situation. The country's resources, obviously, during those nasty, horrible years of decadence paralysis, were channeled to subnational states, and it is the responsibility of the states to use such resources to address the problems of their own people. But have they done that? The answer is no. Those rogue and ridiculous political vultures in Nigeria, they've only enriched their pockets and kept all the money in foreign banks outside Nigeria. It is a fact of economics that when a subsidy is removed, yes, it is a fact, the prices of goods will naturally skyrocket. It will rise. But the good thing about President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is that during the election, don't forget, Tinubu said, and many of those rogue politicians as well, who are in a nasty coalition or disposition, equally said they will remove subsidy. Tinubu promised you that he will remove the subsidy. Guess what? You all voted for Bola Tinubu in 2023. Now, if I say to you, I am going to remove subsidy, and you still vote for me to become your president, what do you think will happen? I will fulfill my pledge. And that was exactly what President Bola Ahmed Tinubu did on his inauguration day. However, we must also recognize that the government must be ready to address poverty in any of the countries of the world. Every country, every head of government must address the issue of poverty. If not, there will certainly be social upheaval. Reform should come. I'm not doubting that, and I'm sure many right thinking individuals will agree with me that reform should come with a human face, and it must address the problem prevailing at the time in the country, not just those of tomorrow or the day after, because economics should be about people, management, and their survival. As people must live, they must survive, and they must enjoy the benefits of economic reforms. Now, To conclude this video podcast, I want you to please, let me put it this way, I want to indulge you to watch the following video. And this video that you're about to watch isn't a political campaign. Isn't a political campaign. It's the people of Kebbi State in northern Nigeria turning out to welcome their rogue son, a political vampire, a vulture who sucked their blood dry, being welcomed back home from Kuje prison for looting Nigeria's treasury, and at the same time for relooting the Abacha's money that was recovered from Switzerland. You see, for me, every politician in Nigeria is a rogue, because they're just there. They want to be voted for into power to steal, to loot, to maim, and to kill. And as for me, I believe if you must steal in a country as corrupt as Nigeria, please, I want to indulge you. Steal in trillions, not billions, trillions. If you know you haven't got the stomach to steal and embezzle in trillions, please don't steal at all. A word is enough for a wise. Listen, guys, I'm still coming back to Seyi Makinde. I'm still working on him, and I'm going to expose and I'm going to show you how Seyi Makinde looted Oyo State Treasury. It's coming your way, because President Bola Ahmed Tinubu urged you and I to question our governors, to question our local government chairmen, because he's giving them far more than what they were getting before. So the liquid development in infrastructure, in education, in health, roads ought to be carried out. Now, if this is your first time on this channel, please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and follow us on both Facebook and YouTube. I hope to come back to you and release more of this breathtaking video podcast so that you guys can get enlightened and you will get informed with some quality information that will blow your mind. Please share the stream, and perhaps you never can say, maybe this is exactly the quality of information that many of your friends, family, relations are dying to have. So until next time, take good care of yourselves, and I hope to see you soon. So thanks for watching the show. Good day.
Para! Para! When you go, come on down. The foundation, the president. The foundation of the nation. I'm going to choose the year.